The ocean is a vital lifeline for the planet. It provides us with food, jobs, and recreation. It connects us to the world's markets and peoples, and is a source of medicines and clean energy. Putting a sustainable blue economy at the heart of ocean management is essential for our ocean, our people, and our prosperity.
All right, well, we're heading into the second to the last panel of the day. We've heard from some fantastic speakers today on the climate-ocean nexus, about sustainable fisheries, and about challenges and opportunities that we in the Pacific communities face. We're now going to turn our attention to creating sustainable blue economies, which is obviously so key to making all these commitments viable and sustainable into the future. I'm pleased to introduce our moderator today, Dr. Leah Gutierrez. Dr. Gutierrez is the Director General of the Pacific Department at the Asian Development Bank. Dr. Gutierrez is an economist by training and has been with the ADB for over 20 years. Welcome, Dr. Gutierrez.
Distinguished guests, good day and good evening to all. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this session on creating sustainable blue economies and to introduce our esteemed speakers on today's panel. Our panelists for today are, first of all, Ambassador Bjorn Staurseth Johansson of Norway, Ambassador to the Philippines, who's here on behalf of the Minister of International Development, Minister Anne Beata Twinereim. Thank you. The next member of our panel is Ambassador Ken O'Flaherty of the United Kingdom. He's the COP26 Regional Ambassador to Asia Pacific and South Asia. Our third panel member for today is Mr. Francesco La Camera, Director General of the International Renewable Energy Agency. Our fourth panelist is the Honorable Semi Corella Vesao, Minister for Fisheries of Fiji. He's here on behalf of the Honorable Minister Ayez Sayed Qayyum, Fiji's Attorney General and Minister for Economy, Civil Service, Communications, Housing, and Community Development, and also serves as the Minister responsible for climate change. Thank you. And last but not least, our fifth panelist is Dr. Hide Sakaguchi, President of the Ocean Policy Research Institute of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Thank you. Thank you all, and please be seated. Thank you. The sustainable blue economy includes all sectors that support ocean health and resilience, such as sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, coastal and marine tourism, and marine renewable energy. The global blue economy has been conservatively valued at over $2.5 trillion per year, and if the blue economy were a country, it would be the 7th largest in the world. The global economy would not exist without the ocean. The oceans provide a livelihood for over 820 million people, support 80% of global trade, and support tourism for almost 200 countries. Oceans contribute significantly to the gross domestic product of many developing countries. Furthermore, the blue economy is expected to grow faster than the general global economy with growth rates of approximately 10% in many blue economy sectors. These economic services, however, are at risk due to unsustainable human activities. Collectively, we have the power to turn the tide. Opportunities to invest in ocean activities that support both sustainability and economic growth are growing. The high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy found that sustainable ocean investments could produce $15.5 trillion in net benefits by 2050, with benefits outweighing costs by 5 to 1. Take clean energy, for example. Offshore wind alone could generate 23 times more power than the present total global electricity consumption. Maritime transport is equivalent to the 6th largest greenhouse gas emitting country globally, but decarbonization of national and international shipping fleets represents a massive market for climate, ocean, and financial returns. Opportunities abound in the sustainable seafood value chain, from using satellite technology to improve fisheries enforcement, to developing climate-resilient aquaculture systems that reduce pressure on wild stocks, and to investing in marine spatial planning for integrated fisheries management. For all sustainable ocean investments, transparency and accountability are key. To this end, ADB is proud to announce that we are collaborating with the International Capital Markets Association, the United Nations Environment Program Finance Initiative, the UN Global Compact, and the International Finance Corporation to develop Blue Bond guidance. And now, to tell us more about the emerging solutions to build a sustainable blue economy, we will be hearing from each of our distinguished panelists. So please welcome, for our first speaker, Ambassador Johansson. Ambassador Johansson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Norway had the honor of hosting the conference back in 2019, and I'm happy that we are finally able to meet again in person. Palau and Norway share a deep connection to the ocean and the experience of sharing it, managing it, and protecting it. This was confirmed in my meeting with President Whips earlier today. We are very grateful to the governments of Palau and the United States for hosting the conference. As you know, since John Kerry took the initiative to this conference back in 2014, this has become an important gathering, focusing on concrete actions and commitments for the oceans. Let us continue to do that today and tomorrow. Together with the President of Palau, the Norwegian Prime Minister is co-chair of the high-level panel for sustainable ocean economy. My Prime Minister sends his best regards. The high-level panel has presented an ocean agenda. It is a platform for the world to sustainably manage 100% of the country's ocean areas. The panel provides valuable knowledge and proposals to all the main topics of this conference. The theme of our session this afternoon is how to create sustainable blue economies. We need a blue economy which is protected effectively, managed sustainably, and shared equitably, all at the same time. Now, this must be done in a holistic, open, and inclusive process. This is a very clear message from the Ocean Panel. Against this backdrop, I will briefly focus on two key issues for Norway. First, food security. The global food system is vulnerable to shocks. Now, we are in the middle of an unprecedented food crisis. The war in Ukraine, as mentioned by many, has a catastrophic impact, far beyond its borders. Food and energy prices were already soaring prior to the conflict. Now they have exploded. Higher prices on food, energy, and fertilizers impact the short-term accessibility of food and their longer-term availability. The global south should strive to reduce their import dependency of food. In this regard, aquatic food has great potential. The ocean, as has been mentioned here before, is the main source of protein for more than 3 billion people. And still, less than 5% of the world's food comes from the sea. We must change that. Aquatic food is healthy for us and for the climate. We cannot battle hunger and malnutrition without unleashing the tremendous potential of the ocean. Now, in addition to increasing production sustainably, we must reduce the high amounts of food loss and waste from the aquatic food sector. This is related to my second point, adaptation to climate change. As for other speakers here, it is a very important point for Norway, and except for war, climate change is perhaps the biggest threat to food security. Now, when we discuss ocean-based climate solutions, we tend to focus mainly on ocean-based. However, we must not forget adaptation to the climate changes that are already taking place, where the most vulnerable are suffering the most, where small island states are victims of climate change, and where these states must adapt to the changes, and this is costly. Norway will therefore increase its focus on adaptation in its development policy. Finally, on concrete ocean commitments. Norway has already provided a comprehensive list, so let me just mention two. First, we will continue our support to the World Bank's Pro-Blue Fund. At COP27, we announced another Norwegian contribution to the fund of $9 million. Second, we will increase our support to sustainable aquaculture development in developing countries via the Food and Agriculture Organization with $9.5 million and in our bilateral programs. The ocean is where many of our global challenges meet. The ocean holds one of the keys to end hunger and poverty. And in terms of climate change, the ocean is both victim and solution. A sound blue economy can both change human health and ensure the health of our planet. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Johansson, for sharing Norway's ocean leadership and experiences. Now we will hear from the United Kingdom, Ambassador Flaherty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon again, and I'm delighted to be here in Palau in particular, I would say, given the incredible leadership which we saw from all of our Pacific partners at COP26 in Glasgow. And I think that leadership delivered real results both on the oceans agenda and on climate change more widely. So I'll speak briefly this afternoon a little bit about the results of Glasgow and where we now need to go next. So I'd like to start with our wider achievements on climate change, because we know that climate change is threatening ocean environments at unprecedented rates. And so we know also that climate action is oceans action. COP26 concluded with agreement on the historic Glasgow Climate Pact, which marked a real step change in terms of ambition, whether on mitigation, on adaptation, or on finance. And of course, there is a massive amount still to do, but we have managed to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal agreed in Paris within reach. And therefore, we have also managed to keep our goal of protecting and restoring ocean health and resilience also within reach. Now, turning to the specific outcomes on the ocean at Glasgow, I think we managed to see real success story in this field. As presidency, we were determined to place nature at the heart of our presidency, and so we were delighted that Glasgow gave a more prominent role to the ocean in the formal UNFCCC process, including through the establishment of an annual climate dialogue. That, in turn, gives us the opportunity to permanently embed the oceans agenda within our wider global climate change response, whether in terms of mitigation and anchoring the oceans within broader national NDCs, also by raising awareness of global coastal communities, of the marine environments within global efforts on adaptation and on resilience, And also crucially, ensuring that international climate finance flows also to the oceans agenda, and also that we are providing the scientific expertise which is needed to find the solutions. The first annual dialogue, as many of you will know, is in June. We are determined that that should set a strong precedent for future such events. So we would be encouraging all parties and non-parties to attend and to shape that really important conversation. Now, if I may turn to a specific sector, COP26 was particularly important for the shipping sector. 80% of international trade is covered and carried by sea. But as we also heard this morning, the shipping sector alone contributes to 3% of global greenhouse gas emissions, about the equivalent amount of Germany or of Japan. Clearly, that can't continue. We have to move together swiftly to a much more sustainable global shipping sector. The International Maritime Organization, or IMO, has happily started action in this field. In 2018, it set out its initial GHG strategy, committing to a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions of at least 50% by 2050. But we know that isn't enough. We have to step up our action, working together with both states and the shipping sector along three key points. First of all, we need to increase our ambition on the IMO agenda, adopting a target to completely phase out greenhouse gas emissions from shipping by 2050. Secondly, we need to accelerate the decarbonisation efforts already happening within the sector, closing the price gap between traditional and alternative maritime fuels, and agreeing ambitious mid-term targets, including potentially market-based measures. And finally, national and plurinational action will be key. And that takes me to the Clydebank Declaration for Green Shipping Corridors, which was agreed at Glasgow. By establishing green corridors, we can speed up and scale up zero-emission shipping supply chains. We can test the performance of zero-emission vessels in real-life situations. We can, perhaps most importantly, show the world that zero-emission shipping is not just feasible, but it is now within reach. 22 governments from across the globe have already signed up to make corridors a reality. I'm delighted that our partners in Palau and Singapore have recently joined up, galvanizing global efforts, and I would encourage you all to join us in these priorities to build about a transition to zero-emission shipping. Now, finally, and I know I'm running out of time, but we would like to just stress that COP26 and climate action is only part of the global efforts towards sustainable blue economies. We also need to ensure strong outcomes from the Convention on Biological Diversity and on negotiations on areas beyond national competence, ensuring that we protect at least 30% of the world's oceans by 2030. Because we know that by protecting the oceans, we can also tackle biodiversity and the climate crises together. And we must increase finance and deliver transformational ocean science, taking advantage of this decade's UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. We now have an unprecedented chance to deliver on the increased ambition set out on Glasgow. So I would finish by asking for all of your support in helping transform that ambition into action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Flaherty. Now we welcome Mr. La Camera to share the expertise from IRENA. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I'm very pleased and honored to be here with you today and bring the experience of the International Renewable Energy Agency here with you. I have to say that I've been familiar with working with the islands. Perhaps some of you may remember that I was working with the Italian Ministry for the Environment, and we've been able to do many good things here in the Pacific as in the Caribbean. I also think that we made some work on the maritime sanctuary here in Palau. But these days are important because I think they are making clear that the old system, centralized system, based on fossil fuel, is not anymore reliable. It's not just a question of fighting climate change. The question is not anymore a tool for development. And more, we have understood our centralized system is what is the contrary to ensure country independencies and freedom. So this is how the day that we have to clearly understand where we stand. And we have recently published our World Energy Outlook 2022. You know, when you are going to present an outlook, it's always the fear to be in some way giving positive messages. We felt that you have to send the right messages. The message was and is that the 1.5 Celsius goal is vanishing soon, even the 2 degrees, if we don't really change dramatically the way we do things. This means out coal and put renewables in place. This means have 3 times the installed capacity of renewables each year there. Just to give you an example, because we are going in the right direction. The problem is not the direction of travel. The problem is the speed, the scale of this travel. Also last year, we just published the data. We have another record for the installed capacity of renewables. Was falling another record of the previous year. But the fact is that we are almost where we were 2 years ago in terms of installed capacity, 260 gigawatt. We needed 3 times more. This means the next year we need 3 times as something more. If we don't do that, we need 4 times. So until this will become simply not feasible. So this is the reason that the next years will tell us exactly where we will be when we look at the Paris Agreement goals. But why renewables? Renewables are the most competitive way to produce electricity. There is no doubt. They are the data, and you can see, you can just read. There is no reason for me to comment how all the renewables are under the fossil fuel area, but now they are more competitive. And this in 4/5 of the planet. This is absolutely true. And this including this part of the world. So where we have the main driver will be electrification of the energy system, including the end use sector. It means that we have to, so electrification, energy efficiency. These are the 2 main drivers. What are the enablers? Renewables, largely. Hydrogen, mainly green hydrogen, and sustainable biomass. And here we see that how we have to go to more than 2/3 of energy through electrification, and how from the 25% of today, we have to go to the 90% of renewables in the as electricity. Concerning offshore, how is important to think that could be important for all the economy. You can put the offshore close to your aquaculture, you can do the cooling, you can manage tourism. So it's a very important area, as the tidal and the wave technologies, that I cannot spend much time. I have just 1 minute to present 2 initiatives that, in my point of view, are crucial in this aspect. One is the climate investment platform that we put in place with the UNDP, C4All, and collaboration with the Green Climate Fund. Now we have 330 partners. All the multilateral financial institutions are there. Major companies, major development agency, development bank. People say that we have no project. We have the project. We are collecting project. We are assessing the bankability. We are going to organize, in the occasion of the G20 Energy Transition Ministerial, back-to-back to is the first Arena Investment Forum, the first Climate Investment Forum. And I wish having success with projects coming from you. So please send the project. We have already many, but please send more than this. Private, government, no matter. And the last thing that I was to say is concerning another facility that we, as Arena, we can manage together with the Abu Dhabi Fund for Development. We have a first leg of this facility, 400 million, that the UAE government committed to this initiative, but we are finalizing the agreement with the Northern Development Fund, with the Asian Infrastructure Bank, with the Cassa dei Depositi e Prestiti Italian and other institutions. So please believe in the capacity to do things. We have pledged, committed with houses to reach 10 gigawatt of offshore wind in 2030. Promises, but must be maintained. Commitment has to change in result. And you can be sure that we can work with you for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. La Camera. Now let us welcome the Honorable Minister Corolla Vesao from Fiji. Thank you.
Dear Head of States, Honorable Ministers, Ambassadors, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Bulavinaka and a very good afternoon to you all. It's an honor to sit among fellow advocates in the fight to save our global ocean here in Palau. All of you understand the enormous scale of the challenge before us, to turn our hopes for the ocean into a genuine ambition, than to use that ambition as fuel for concerted effort in the Blue Pacific. Fiji's intimate relationship with the ocean is understood by all. Pacific Island nations in all ways that matter most. Our beaches, reefs, and forests are not just hallmarks of the Fijian way of life, they are part of our culture. They provide our livelihoods and protect us. Our health and well-being of our oceans and the state of our climate are interconnected system. It is our fate that depend only on the actions that we take here in the Pacific. Our future will be assured because we will take whatever actions we must take, innovate in every way we can, and make any sacrifice that make to protect and preserve our ocean. But we are not only the ones who hold the future of the ocean in our hands. The rest of the world must also do its part. And that is the greater challenge that brought us here to Palau. As Pacific leaders, our task this week is to lead, to be a beacon of blue leadership that inspires the world to turn away from the model of developments that harms our ocean and threatens to strip them of their life-giving resources. The balance between environment and development may be considered novel in most advanced countries, but it is not a new idea to us. This has been our approach in the Blue Pacific from time immemorial. As large ocean states, the climate, the tides, cyclones, the health of fish stocks and forests, and rainfall all define everyday life. And as world-class tourism destination emerging from pandemic, Fiji is using our reopening to the world as a reset for a highly sustainable and resilient tourism sector. Pre-COVID, we are on course to welcome 1 million visitors annually, surpassing Fiji's population. We never doubted that our tourism brand would keep its value and our industry would bounce back. With arrivals climbing by the month, we now have the proof. The challenge is to protect it against future adversity to make it truly sustainable. Visitors to Fiji should come to see our reefs, forests, and beautiful biodiversity. The money they spend in Fiji should help protect these ecosystems, and they should live with a new understanding of the value of marvels of nature they'll experience in our islands. The onus is on us to take action, to ensure that the oceans are protected not only for tourism, not only for the economic benefits they bring to us, but for their intrinsic value as a critical component of our global ecosystem. Our Honorable Prime Minister, Frank Bainimarama, has a assertive stand on the global arena, focusing on the world's attention on the plight of small island states in dealing with unsustainable development and climate change. We must force the world to look. We must hold their attention until they actually see what is happening. But while we wait for the world to catch up, we are taking actions at home. We cannot ask others to do what we are not willing to do ourselves. Fiji is now committed to a long-term national framework that makes sustainability a guiding principle for virtually all government economic activities. It is a national approach to a blue and greener future. We are streamlining tourism regulations, promoting tourism investment, and building capacity for local governments. We are also developing concessions framework to engage the private sector in the management and enforcement of marine protected areas. The old business model of selling rooms and drinks must make space for a model centered around protected forests, for visitors can tour, for marine protected areas that become sites for mangrove and coral planting, for organic farms that put healthy and carbon neutral meals to our guest plates, and for renewable powered hotels and restaurants. Fiji is committing to increasing digital connectivity and improving transportation. Additionally, our tourism industry has strongly aligned itself to the conservation and protection of our marine ecosystem and employing innovative technologies that use resources efficiently. More and more of our hotels are moving toward net zero by 2030, and we hope all resorts and hotels would be as near to net zero as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Corella Vesao. And our last panelist is Dr. Sakaguchi of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you very much to introduce me. It's my great honor to be here representing Sasakawa Peace Foundation within the group of Nippon Foundation, as was introduced at the beginning of this afternoon. Actually, we, Sasakawa Peace Foundation, together with Nippon Foundation, have supported the Palau here, not only for this our ocean conference, but supporting the Coastal Guard fleet vessels and also the training of the Coastal Guard people. Okay, let me say the blue economy as a game changer, particularly for small island and developing states. And the question is always, who have the ownership of the ocean and the marine resources? It's an easy question, but it's a tough question to answer. And the key word in our views are core benefits and synergies, as well as trade-offs. And let me explain the sustainable fisheries. The question is how we can maximize the revenue from the income to keep up the sustainability. And there is one good example in Suruga Bay, Japan. What they are doing is provide the information, what kind of species and how many fish are in a fixed net before landing. And then consumer, including fish market and also seafood restaurants and also each individual consumer, take a look at the information from the fisheries and then registered which species and how many fish they want. And then eventually fishermen landing on the data of the consumer to minimize the waste and also minimize the cost for transportation and minimize the cost for opening the market. So that is a good example to realize sustainability in a fisheries. And let me move on the sustainable in the tourism. Tourists obviously drop some amount of money when they are making the tour, but at the same time, they also leave waste and also carbon dioxide, by their activities. And then what is an important achieve sustainable tourism? My answer is nature preservation and local people empowerment from the viewpoint of long term is the most important issues. With the empowerment of local people, the community can be resilient in the short-term impact, such as pandemic or the short-term fluctuation of the tourist flows. And coastal marine offshore renewable energies is another potential, as have been discussed this morning and this afternoon, is a potential for blue economies. We must continue to support investment in technology and innovation. For this purpose, we need to do the assesses for the potential energy harvesting based on topological and also physical condition of the coastal and ocean. At the same time, we also need to cross-sectoral and multi-stakeholder collaboration among renewable energy promotion, sustainable fisheries, aquaculture, and tourism to multiply environmental and socio-economic benefits. The co-benefit I mentioned at the beginning, co-benefit promotion and trade-off optimization are particularly important for offshore wind power energy development, not to hamper fisheries, but to instead generate co-benefit. That's the point of renewable energy. Sustainable aquaculture also provides potentials. Science and technology within community-based resources management for aquaculture are quite important, and it will be resilient to climate such as seawater temperature rise. And so far, there are a wide range of enable policy and institutional factors required to promote sustainable blue economies. To better utilize natural capital and promote sustainable blue economies, we must ensure enabling policies, finance, technology, science, traditional knowledge, human resources, and stakeholder empowerment and partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sakaguchi, and thank you to all of our panelists for the thoughtful insights. Now we would like to move to a short Q&A for everyone. Ambassador Johansson, I understand that the Norwegian government emphasizes and has considerable experience in integrated ocean management. Can you share with us why you see sustainable ocean planning as a key tool to achieve a sustainable ocean economy?
Sure, yeah. So the maritime area of Norway is 6 times the size of our land area. So the ocean is really fundamental to our livelihoods and our future. And in managing this resource, the integrated ocean management plans have been really crucial. We started this maybe 20 years ago. It's really about balancing various interests, in our case mainly fisheries and oil and gas, and also concerns about pollution. Now, the sustainable ocean planning, which is high on the agenda of the high-level panel at the moment, is really putting sustainability at the center of this process in all its aspects, both society, economy, and environment, and to create an inclusive process at the same time. Now, this is a very important topic, and you can learn more about it tomorrow morning at the side event at the Palau Community Center.
Indeed. Thank you, Ambassador Johansson. Now let us focus on some key blue economy sectors. Ambassador Flaherty, how can we make sure that shipping is part of the sustainable blue economy?
Well, I'd say shipping is a complex sector. it's an interconnected sector, and it's inherently a global sector. And while we're starting to see the solutions to decarbonize the sector coming forward, we need to do a lot of work to scale those up, to match the scale of the climate crisis, and also to make sure that they're at a cost that's sustainable for industry. So I think that's a really big challenge. I'd say that the work of the International Maritime Organization based in London is obviously key. We need global solutions to tackle what is inherently a global problem. As I mentioned, we need to ensure that we're raising the ambition of our targets for full removal of greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, but we also need to be setting quite ambitious medium-term targets as well. And I think in that regard, I'd also like to commend our US and Danish colleagues for the initiative at Glasgow around the zero-emission shipping by 2050 declaration. I'd encourage all governments here today, if you haven't already done so, to join us in signing that declaration. And I think this kind of plurinational initiative has a really important role to play alongside the IMO. So the Clydebank Declaration, the declaration I've just mentioned on zero-emission shipping, but also initiatives such as the COZEV initiative from the cargo shipping sector are all really important. And I think I'd be encouraging every government represented here today to look at signing up to those, but also calling on our business and non-state actor colleagues to be supporting action in that area as well.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Flaherty. Now turning on to Mr. La Camera. Ocean and offshore renewable energy technologies are some of the promising renewable energies for small island developing states, or SIDS, who can utilize the vast ocean. What are the strengths and weaknesses of SIDS in this field?
One of the weaknesses, we start with the bad news, no? is perhaps some timing for some of the island, the sites of the island itself. So the fact that in principle may be enough markets for selling the energy produced. Yeah. This could be a weakness. But from the other side, the benefit advantage are enormous. I think this is an ideal place for having an offshore and tidal technologies be put in place. What is important is that to understand that for feeding the energy system of the SIDS is not necessary a big amount of money. Our estimates say that this is not that a barrier for that. What is important is the international cooperation will focus exactly on what is needed to be done. On this, I have always to talk about our initiative, the Lighthouse Initiative, and also take the opportunity to thanks through the Ambassador of Norway for their continued support on this initiative. So we have to find a way. One they have suggested today is bring ideas for projects in the context of the NDCs that we have prepared together. We have supported 72 countries on preparing the NDCs. So we have assessed 44 renewable assessment, including the islands. So try to take profit of this instrument, trying to work together. I think we cannot say something that will be valid for everyone. The only thing that is valid that we have to work hard and do our job. So it is important that we find solution in the context of what are our capacities and tasks.
Thank you very much, Mr. La Camera. Minister Corolla Vesao, what does sustainability mean to you and to the unique nature of the tourism industry? Thank you.
Thank you. Sustainability is how we can develop policies and initiatives for growing economy without sacrificing future generations to enjoy the same resources and environment that we have today. For us, that means preserving the health of our oceans and the stability of our climate. For our part, our entire development agenda is built around the principle of sustainability. We've mapped out a decarbonization plan through our national policies, such as the Green Growth Framework, National Development Plan, and the Low Emissions Development Strategy, and the nationally determined commitments. But because we know we need the entire world to share our commitment, our Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama has been a champion for small island developing states in the international arena and a fierce fighter for action to halt the damage to the environment, especially the oceans, and cut carbon emissions. So in a word, sustainability for Fiji means solidarity from the rest of the world. We know that we must do and what we must do, and we hope our example can inspire others to follow suit. Fiji depends on the ocean for transport. It is our link to international and domestic markets, a source of livelihood and food, and a major tourism attraction. And that is where our efforts are most focused. Partnership are key for us, and it's the reason we are here. To accelerate our recovery and ensure we are in a state of readiness for future shocks, as we require the right resources, the right expertise, and the right partnership that harness multilateral instruments. Fiji, with its fellow Pacific Islands in 2019, pledged to decarbonize the domestic shipping fleet by 2050 as part of our net zero commitments. At the multilateral level, we are pushing for commitment on disciplining fisheries subsidies. The World Trade Organization has not been able to get convergence on the discipline for nearly 2 decades. This is because the biggest subsidies are trying to dilute the disciplines into irrelevance. But these disciplines are critical for our region, which maintains the healthiest stock of marine life. And also, Fiji's position is that as part of our commitment to sustainably manage the ocean, deep sea mining should be banned in this decade in favor of exploration. We required continued technical support in capacity building and knowledge sharing. We need development partners to work with us in stimulating investment opportunities to drive COVID-19 recovery and resilience across the tourism value chain, and a focus on refinancing, greening, and blueing the industry. In order for Fiji to transition to a climate-resilient economy, we need to mobilize resources and expertise. We need to address barriers such as climate change awareness, knowledge, technology adaptation. Transformative change will only be realized through accelerated, scalable, and finance initiatives. And we can do this with our coalitions and partnerships.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Carla Vesao. Now, Dr. Sakaguchi, what would be your suggested strategy for capacity development for creating sustainable blue economies, particularly for Pacific Island countries?
Well, from my understanding, to realize sustainable ocean and also to have our future Earth is our generation responsibility. But we have many targets at the milestone of 2025 or 2030 or 2050, right?
Yeah.
We discussed before. And then the most important thing is to train and also involve young generation. Otherwise, I cannot live maybe at 2050, I'm not sure. But then it's important to have young generation to be involved in ocean issues. And that's why we, Saskia Peace Foundation, invited and support youth generation, 17 youth at this conference. But in addition, with the great initiation of Norway, they have Statoil Lemco worldwide expedition with tall ship, and we're going to support Palau young generation, youth generation, together with some other island countries' youth generation on board together from the expedition from Koror to Yokohama. Certain numbers we, Saskia Peace Foundation, will support. So my answer is younger generation, youth generation, they are our precious stone, and we have to polish, and then they can shine. In that time, we set some targets. That's my answer.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sakaguchi. And thank you to all of our distinguished panelists for the rich and inspiring discussion today. You have given us both real-world examples of how to invest in the sustainable blue economy and the hope that together we can steer the ship towards ocean health and resilience. And now to close today, I would like to end with a quote by His Excellency Sir Rangel Whipps Jr. He said, "We are racing against time to save our ocean. To remain ahead in this race, we must be like the Kabekel, Palau's fastest war canoe, that depended on each crew member to fulfill their duties. Similarly, we must each take responsibility and work in unison to protect our ocean, our people, and our prosperity. Our survival depends on swift and collective action." Now, let us take those words to heart.